Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here, deep in my frozen subterranean bunker, surviving the winter apocalypse. Just want to do some real quick perfunctory comments on the comics I read this week. So, Pokemon Adventures number 10. This volume is where Mato retired from the series. I believe she suffered some kind of illness that prevented her from continuing to work on the series, which is really sad because I really found Mato's art style very charming and unique. One thing I thought while reading this one, since it's a new artist, is Mato sort of took inspiration from the very simple sprite work of the Game Boy games, maybe brought a little element of chibi art into her style, but in a very natural and graceful way where it didn't stand out kind of jarringly. However, it's Pokemon Adventures. It's still good, even without my favorite artist. So the new artist is Satori Yamamoto. I'd call Yamamoto's style a little bit more of maybe like a standard manga style, a little bit less of that chibi element to it. And a lot of what I've said in praise of previous volumes is true of this one. So once again, the protagonist changes about every 3 volumes or so. They change the protagonist again. And there's also this kind of neat pattern of there's always something unique about the protagonist. I don't like how Crystal is characterized as much as the previous protagonist, but she still has some of these neat traits. So number one thing about Crystal is you can kind of tell that she's designed to be like the pre-teenage boy's first crush. Like there's no like fan service or anything that's like sexual or anything, but you can kind of tell that they decided to get a really pretty girl to bring in some of those preteen boys. If you have a crush on her, you're going to be buying every new issue, right? And Crystal has the trait where she's a capturing expert, which is kind of neat because that isn't true of any of the previous protagonists. They've been more battle-centric or more logic-centric or more exploration-centric, or they've been kind of full of themselves. And Crystal is someone who's just completely fixated on capturing every single Pokemon. So one neat thing about that is that something from the games that's a part of the games. Like you can beat the regular game, and then if you're a super completionist, you can go and capture every single Pokemon. Hidenori Kusaka kind of makes the joke that he had a hard time capturing some of the legendaries, so maybe writing this character was a way of him fulfilling his dream of capturing all the Pokemon, even if he couldn't do that in the game itself. So that's kind of a neat idea, is taking something that maybe not everybody could do in the video games because it was a little extra challenging, and having that carried out in the manga in some way. And then the second thing is she's like a karate girl. So every Pokemon character has to have some unique thing about the way they use Pokemon to kind of change them up a little bit. And she karate kicks her balls straight at the Pokemon that she's trying to capture. There's also a little thing where she kind of has a personality switch from like very chipper and sweet to very focused and intense while capturing. So she's kind of like a person with a very singular focus for what she wants to do with her career. There isn't that much to say about her beyond that. Maybe they're still building it up. Most of the other protagonists would have like a simple little character flaw or a simple little character problem, like being too impulsive or being too full of themselves that they had to work out. Crystal so far is just a nice girl with cool karate moves, karate biologist waifu, right? However, I do appreciate still kind of like the effort being put in to distinguish every one of them. So I haven't played Pokemon Crystal, but I know that Suicune is a central part of it, and there are some characters that were in that version of the game that weren't anywhere else. So as she is pursuing Suicune, like this mysterious legendary Pokemon, it goes and it faces every gym leader, which kind of has the dual effect of introducing all the gym leader characters and of kind of like establishing Suicune as this really dangerous, really elusive prey that the best trainers in the world can't keep up with. Crystal runs into, I think his name is like Yusin or something like that, like a guy who has clearly been designed and named with Suicune in mind. He has some of Suicune's colors in his outfit. His name is a little bit of a play on words on Suicune, and he's a magician. So what's neat about him is, as sort of a rival, he isn't a guy who's interested in becoming the biggest fighter in the world. He's a guy who's interested in capturing very rare Pokemon. And he's given a little balance too. He's kind of a pompous jerk. He runs around in a tuxedo and his fancy schmancy gentleman binoculars, a little bit like a gentleman thief, Lupin archetype type of character. However, kind of underneath his maybe con man personality, he actually is a pretty genuinely cool guy. So there's just some neat things where they'll have him like do some magic and he'll explain, well, the point when I do magic, the point of telling someone that I am removing something is to trick them into not thinking that I could be adding something, which is how he sees through a trap that Team Rocket set up for them to distract them from capturing Suicune. So I'm not really sold on this yet. I kind of want to I'm still going to read more and see how it develops, but the pro is they're still doing some interesting, unique things with the characters to kind of change it up. The con is I don't really have a feel for who Crystal is yet or what her journey is about. I guess one more neat thing is she's introduced as an established Pokemon trainer who already has her team, so that kind of helps sell the idea that she's already really good at this one specific thing. All of her Pokemon are oriented around capturing Pokemon, not necessarily defeating Pokemon. So there are some neat things. I want to see that developed. And then this Amazing Adventures Inhumans and Black Widow, it actually doesn't reprint the Inhuman story. It just reprints the Black Widow stories from Amazing Adventures 1 and 2. And I think Amazing Adventures was a series for Marvel to try to build up some of their less famous characters. You know, hey, kids, get 2 for the price of 1. Maybe you'll like one of these characters. And the penciler is John Buscema, and the inker is John Verpoorten. And I'm guessing this is a younger John Buscema. He doesn't quite have the fluidity I've seen in older John Buscema work, and there's a little bit still of kind of like Jack Kirby's style influencing everything. One of the things I was thinking of was how John Buscema thinks about human figures a little bit more like a Michelangelo, or maybe like what would be another good one? Basari? The name escapes me, but basically thinking of the human figure as kind of like this fluid bag of meat that's very curved and fluid. And Jack Kirby is a lot more of a stiff guy, like solid, sharp geometry. And I think the inking by Verpoorten makes it what was really interesting is it kind of showcases how much an inker can affect the work, where the inker is sort of inking it in a Jack Kirby style where everything is sharp and they're really solid blacks. So yeah, that was just kind of like an interesting artistic thought for me. The story is like this very basic. Black Widow wants to be a superhero and she doesn't know how she can balance being a wealthy socialite with being a vigilante superhero. She saves some poor kid from some loan sharks. There's some story where one of the kids is a social justice warrior, so they're going to take over the bad politicians' offices and turn it into a place to feed the poor. And Black Widow says, well, I appreciate that you're trying to feed poor children, but I think you need to stay within the bounds of the law. You know, kind of like that classic, Marvel is like the most centrist, I just want to grill company ever whenever they had politics in their stories. And that's actually something I kind of appreciate. It makes it a sort of charming time capsule of the 60s and 70s where there was all this radicalism, and maybe they were kind of optimistic that you could do something to improve the world without necessarily tearing everything down. So very goofy, straightforward little superhero adventure with a sexy femme fatale character. All right, that's it. We're going to keep it brief today. I'm number one Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later.